It's the rematch, the Seahawks making the long journey east for the second time this year to take on the Eagles, the one team that can say they've been hit by the injury bug harder than the Hawks. We always have predictions, but this week we're going to go with twice as many since it's the playoffs. But let's stack these teams up next to one another first so you can form a prediction of your own. First off, let's do a quick recap of the first time these two teams met up back in Week 12, a 17-9 Seahawks win that saw Russell Wilson throw for just 200 yards, 1 TD, and a pick. Seattle getting most of its offense from Rashad Penny.
Still on his feet, touchdown!
Penny scored and ran for 129 yards on just 14 carries. He and Chris Carson the main reason Seattle ranks 4th in rushing yards per game on the back of a healthy 4.6 yards a carry. But a lot has changed for both these teams in less than 2 months, starting with the fact Penny and Carson were both lost for the season due to injuries, along with their third-string back CJ Prosise. That, of course, paved the way for the return of beast mode.
Lynch, touchdown.
Marshawn Lynch got to shake hands with his Seattle teammates once again, and he had his moments against the Niners. He'll likely be used much in the same way this week, splitting time with Travis Homer, who was much more effective, though to be fair, he was not nearly as zeroed in on as Lynch was when he was in the game. Now, most of the time, the Eagles are pretty stout against the run, 3rd fewest rushing yards per game, and 11th best yards per carry average against. But with the Hawks' banged-up backfield, you have to think it will be their secondary that finds itself under the spotlight as it tries to stop Wilson.
Fires to the end zone, caught!
Seattle's passing offense on paper looks pretty good. 4th in passer rating, 6th highest yards per attempt, 8th highest yards per completion. Ranking high in those categories means you're usually getting good production from your receivers, which Seattle has.
Caught! DK Metcalf!
DK Metcalf finished his rookie year with 900 yards even to go along with 7 scores. Tyler Lockett going for more than 1,000 yards and 8 scores. The Eagles, meantime, were middle of the pack in passer rating allowed and passing yards per game allowed. But only 5 teams allowed more yards to receivers, and they were 25th in yards per completion allowed, so their banged-up secondary is going to get tested, as their weakness here plays right into Seattle's strength. It would go a long way then if the Eagles could keep Seattle's O off the field, and that's one area Jim Schwartz's unit has excelled in.
And he is shut down. What a play by Crayvon LeBlanc.
The Eagles were 4th best on 3rd downs this season, the Seahawks 16th best at moving the chains, making it one of the bigger keys to pay attention to as the game rolls along. And as good as the Eagles are at forcing punts, they've been even better at avoiding them.
Sanders got it, touchdown, Philadelphia.
Only 3 teams were better than Philadelphia at moving the chains, and only 2 were better at scoring TDs inside the red zone. But the Eagles have had to get really creative lately to keep that up. You won't find many teams out there who have a longer injury report than Philadelphia, forcing Carson Wentz to look elsewhere to keep the offense moving. It's meant a heavy dose of tight ends. Dallas Goedert, Wentz's go-to receiver at this point.
End zone, pass caught, touchdown Goedert.
Goedert is more important than ever with Zach Ertz landing on the shelf, though Josh Perkins came up big in their win over New York as well. Those two could put up big games again, too, because only one team has given up more yards to tight ends than Seattle has. Also playing into Philly's current state is the fact that Seattle was bad at stopping running backs as receivers. Only 3 teams allowed more yards to backs than they did. And backs have become a key weapon for the Eagles' passing game, most notably Boston Scott.
And Boston Scott inside the 5.
Scott has 4 or more receptions in 4 straight games since being thrust into the lineup and could again play a big role this week with Miles Sanders hurting his ankle. Sanders' status in this game is big. He led all rookies in scrimmage yards this year and ran for over 4.5 yards a carry.
He will find the end zone, touchdown Philadelphia.
The Eagles, despite all their injuries to running backs as well, averaged 4.3 a pop overall and were 11th in rushing yards per game. And the Seahawks D didn't just struggle when it came to backs catching the ball, they also struggled when they were handed the ball. 22nd in rush yards per game allowed, and a fat 4.9 yards a carry allowed, Only 4 teams in the league gave up a higher figure than that. Where the Seahawks D does hold a statistical advantage is in the turnover game.
It's KJ Wright with his second interception.
Seattle came up with 32 takeaways on the year. Only 2 teams had more. The Eagles, meanwhile, were tied for 19th when it came to turning the ball over. So ball security will be important for Wentz and company with the Seahawks swarming around. Okay, so it's one beat-up squad taking on an even more beat-up squad. You now have the numbers to churn out your prediction, so here are 6 of ours to compare it to.
They're going to get the snap off before the 2-minute warning. Wentz looking around and throws all the way across the field, and it's a touchdown to Joshua Perkins. What a throw by Carson Wentz.